My college roommate called me with an opportunity of a lifetime. Invest in his real estate development company. Guaranteed 40% returns. I invested $200,000. So did 15 other people we knew. 2 years later, he turned that into a $45 million real estate portfolio. We were all rich, or so we thought. Then one day, the FBI raided his office and arrested him for running a $32 million PONZI scheme. And every dollar we thought we'd made, it never existed. I'm Greg Williams, and this is the story of how my trusted friend turned our entire social circle into victims of an elaborate con. How he funded his luxury lifestyle with our money, and how I lost everything, including my marriage, chasing fake returns. If financial betrayal stories fascinate you, subscribe immediately. Hit that like button if you've ever been tempted by an investment that seemed too good to be true. Because this story will teach you why those instincts exist. I met Brandon Pierce at UC Berkeley in 2010. We were roommates sophomore through senior year. Brandon was charismatic, ambitious, and smart. The kind of guy everyone wanted to be around. After graduation, we stayed close. He went into commercial real estate, I went into software sales. We'd meet up for drinks, talk about our careers, our dreams. In 2018, Brandon started his own company, Pierce Capital Group. He told me he was investing in multifamily residential properties in emerging markets. Greg, these properties are gold mines. Buy a building in an up-and-coming neighborhood for cheap, renovate it, rent it out, and watch the value skyrocket. I'm making 40% returns consistently. That seems high, because most people don't know how to spot these opportunities. But I do. I've got connections, insider knowledge, the whole thing. He showed me photos of properties, beautiful buildings, happy tenants, professional presentations with impressive numbers. I'm opening investment opportunities to a few select people, Brandon said. Friends and family only. Minimum investment $50,000. Returns paid quarterly. Completely passive income for you. I don't know, Brandon. That's a lot of money. Greg, I'm your friend. I'm not going to screw you over. I'm trying to help you build wealth. But if you're not interested, no problem. I've got a wait list of people who want in. FOMO got me. Fear of missing out. I didn't want to watch Brandon and others get rich while I stayed on the sidelines. I invested $50,000. My entire savings. 3 months later, I got a check for $5,000. 10% return. Quarterly. That's 40% annually, exactly as Brandon promised. I was ecstatic. I immediately invested another $150,000, money I borrowed against my 401k. Over the next 2 years, those quarterly checks kept coming. Like clockwork. $8,000 every 3 months on my $200,000 investment. I was making $32,000 a year in passive income. It was incredible. Brandon kept expanding. He brought in more investors, friends from college, people from his gym, members of his country club. Everyone wanted a piece. He'd host lavish investor dinners at expensive restaurants. He'd show us property photos, construction updates, occupancy rates. Everything looked legitimate. Pierce Capital Group now manages 18 properties across 4 states. He'd announce. Total portfolio value, $45 million. And we're just getting started. We cheered. We felt like insiders, like we'd discovered the secret to wealth. Brandon's lifestyle reflected his success. He bought a mansion in Napa Valley. He drove a Bentley. He wore Rolex watches. He took vacations to St. Tropez and posted photos on Instagram. This is what success looks like, he'd say. And you're all part of it. I recruited my brother-in-law to invest. My neighbor, a guy from my gym. Everyone trusted me because I'd been making money consistently for 2 years. By 2020, I'd convinced 6 people to invest. I felt like I was helping them, giving them access to an opportunity they wouldn't have found on their own. My wife, Amanda, was skeptical. Greg, this seems too good to be true. Have you actually visited any of these properties? Brandon sends us updates all the time. But have you seen them? In person? Why would I need to? The returns speak for themselves. She pushed back, but I dismissed her concerns. I was making money. The checks kept coming. What more proof did she need? In early 2021, Brandon announced a special opportunity. We're acquiring a luxury apartment complex in Austin, Texas. It's a $12 million deal. I'm offering existing investors first crack at additional investment. Double your stake now, and you'll double your returns. I went all in. I took out a second mortgage on our house, $300,000, and invested it all. Amanda was furious. Greg, you're gambling with our home. It's not gambling, it's investing. Brandon's track record is perfect. I'm asking you not to do this. I did it anyway. That was the beginning of the end of my marriage. Hit that like button if you've ever ignored someone's good advice because you thought you knew better. And comment. Have you ever fallen for something that seemed too good to be true? In June 2021, the quarterly checks stopped coming. I called Brandon. Hey man, I didn't get my distribution this quarter. Oh, sorry, just a processing delay. There was an issue with the bank. I'll get it sorted. When? End of the week. End of the week came. No check. I called again. Voicemail. I texted. No response. Other investors started reaching out to me. Have you gotten your distribution? I haven't received mine either. We formed a group chat. None of us had received payments. 16 investors, all in the dark. We drove to Brandon's office. Locked. Dark. We went to his house in Napa. For sale sign out front. Empty. Panic set in. One of the investors, a lawyer named James, started digging. He filed paperwork to access Pierce Capital Group's corporate records. What he found was devastating. Pierce Capital Group owned exactly one property. One. A small duplex in Sacramento worth about $400,000. The other 17 properties Brandon had shown us? They existed, but they weren't owned by Pierce Capital. They were random properties he'd found online. He'd used their photos and made up the financial data. The quarterly returns we'd been receiving? They weren't profits from real estate investments. They were just our own money being paid back to us, along with money from new investors. Brandon Pierce was running a classic Ponzi scheme. He'd raised $32 million from investors over 4 years. He'd paid out about $10 million in fake returns. All of it just recycled investor money. The remaining $22 million? Gone. Spent on his mansion, his cars, his lifestyle, his vacations. Brandon had been living like a millionaire using our money. James filed a lawsuit. We reported it to the FBI. And we waited. 3 weeks later, the FBI found Brandon in Mexico. He was arrested, extradited, and charged with wire fraud, mail fraud, and running a Ponzi scheme. The FBI investigation revealed the full scope of Brandon's con. He'd targeted people who trusted him. Friends, former classmates, acquaintances, people who wouldn't ask too many questions because they believed in him personally. He'd fabricated every document we'd seen. The property photos were real, but they weren't his properties. The financial statements were created in Excel with made-up numbers. The tenant occupancy reports were fiction. He'd even hired actors to play property managers on video calls with investors who asked detailed questions. It was sophisticated, calculated, and completely fraudulent. At his trial, Brandon showed no remorse. His lawyer tried to paint him as someone who'd gotten in over his head, who'd made mistakes but meant well. But the evidence showed otherwise. Brandon had planned this from the beginning. He'd researched Ponzi schemes. He'd studied Bernie Madoff's operation. He'd deliberately targeted people who trusted him. He was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. But that didn't get our money back. The FBI recovered about $2 million from Brandon's assets. His cars, his house, his belongings. Divided among 16 investors who'd lost $32 million, we each got back about $125,000. I'd invested $500,000 total. I got back $125,000. I lost $375,000. But I didn't just lose money. I lost everything. The second mortgage I took out, couldn't pay it back. The bank foreclosed on our house. Amanda filed for divorce. You destroyed our financial security. You ignored my warnings. You chose Brandon over me. I can't trust you anymore. The 6 people I'd recruited to invest? 3 of them sued me for fraud, claiming I was part of the scheme. The lawsuits were eventually dismissed, but those friendships were destroyed forever. My brother-in-law lost $100,000. He hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. I had to declare bankruptcy. My credit was ruined. I moved into a studio apartment and started over at 36 years old with nothing. It's been 3 years since Brandon's arrest. I'm rebuilding slowly. I got a new job. I'm renting a decent apartment. I'm dating someone new who doesn't know about my past yet. I'm dreading that conversation. I see a therapist weekly to deal with the guilt, the shame, the stupidity of it all. Because here's the hardest part. I wasn't just a victim. I was also a perpetrator. I recruited other people. I convinced them to trust Brandon because I trusted him. I ignored red flags because I was making money. The 6 people I brought in lost a combined $800,000. That's on me. One of them was a single mother who invested her late mother's life insurance payout. $150,000 that was supposed to secure her kid's future. Gone. I'll never forgive myself for that. I've learned some brutal lessons. If it seems too good to be true, it is. 40% returns are not normal. They're not sustainable. They're a red flag. Trust but verify. I should have visited the properties. I should have demanded audited financial statements. I should have done independent research. Friendship isn't due diligence. Just because someone is your friend doesn't mean they're honest in business. In fact, con artists specifically target friends and family because we're less likely to question them. Greed makes you stupid. I ignored warning signs because I didn't want to believe I was being conned. I wanted the money to be real. I joined a support group for Ponzi scheme victims. There are more of us than you'd think. We share our stories, our guilt, our anger. One thing we all have in common: we all thought we were too smart to fall for something like this. That's exactly what makes it work. Last year, I got a letter from Brandon in prison. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Greg, I know you hate me. You should. I destroyed your life and the lives of people you love. I wish I could tell you I didn't mean to, but that would be another lie. I knew exactly what I was doing. I started with good intentions. I really was going to invest in real estate. But then I lost money on my first deal, and instead of admitting failure, I doubled down. I used new investor money to pay back old investors, telling myself I'd make it back eventually. But I never made it back. The hole just got deeper, and somewhere along the way I stopped caring. The lifestyle became addictive. The money, the respect, the power, I couldn't give it up. So I kept lying, kept stealing, kept destroying people who trusted me. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. This wasn't about you. It was about me. My greed, my weakness, my complete moral failure. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Brandon, I read that letter 5 times. Then I burned it. Sorry doesn't give me back my house. Sorry doesn't restore my marriage. Sorry doesn't undo the damage to the people I brought into this nightmare. Sorry is just another thing Brandon Pierce says when it costs him nothing. I'm Greg Williams. My college friend conned me and 15 others out of $32 million in an elaborate Ponzi scheme disguised as a real estate investment opportunity. Here's what I need from you right now. 1. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear real stories about financial betrayal and learn from other people's mistakes. 2. Smash that like button if this story taught you something or made you more cautious about investment opportunities. 3. Share this video with anyone who's been pitched a guaranteed return investment. They need to hear this warning. And comment your answer. Have you ever been pitched an investment that seemed too good to be true? What did you do? Here's my final advice. Do your homework. Ask questions. Demand proof. Visit properties. Get independent verification. And if someone gets defensive when you ask for documentation, run. Your skepticism might save you from losing everything like I did. Bernie Madoff stole $65 billion. Brandon Pierce stole $32 million. There are thousands of smaller scams happening right now, targeting trusting people just like I was. Don't be like me. Be smarter than me. I'm Greg Williams. Protect yourself out there.